Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City of Annapolis Board of Appeals regular meeting for April 2nd, 2024. The meeting's being broadcast on the City of Annapolis YouTube channel as usual. My name is Bob Gallagher. The agenda for tonight's meeting, you can find it on the City of Annapolis website. The agenda contains a link to the City of Annapolis YouTube channel where you can view the proceedings. It also has a link to the city's website and the comment form on which anyone who has written or oral comments can submit the written comments or sign up to present their comments at a meeting in person. Anyone wishing to do that needs to do so by noon on the day of the hearing. And finally, the agenda also has a link to the city's database where anyone who's interested can find information relating to the cases that will come before the board tonight. So, as I said, any written comments received by noon today in matters before the board tonight will have been provided to the board and the parties and will be made part of the record. Let me remind everyone that communications with members of the board about any case by anyone other than a party to the case must go through the comment form on the city's website. We're getting a little feedback there. Sorry. Any communications by parties with members of the board need to go through board liaison Kim Consoli, sitting to my right. She's in the Department of Planning and Zoning. You can find her there. No one should contact any member of the board directly about any case pending before the board. So we'll begin the meeting by asking Kim to call the roll.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Zazali?
Yes.
Dr. Chen?
Present.
Mr. Hector?
Here.
Mr. Walsh?
Present.
Mr. Chairman, we have 5 present.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Have the members of the board had a chance to review the agenda for tonight's meeting?
Motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you. Have the members of the board had a chance to review the minutes of the meeting of March 5th? Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. All right, we have one case on the agenda tonight.
Mr. Chairman, one disclosure. I own a property within 1,000 feet of this house. But I'm not familiar with this property, so it will
Okay.
be heard de novo by me.
Okay. I'll have something to say on that too in just a minute. So we're calling up the case variance 2024-001, a variance application by John and Amanda Larkin, owners for a steep slope and steep slope buffer disturbance for the construction of a new single-family dwelling on property located at 5 Tyler Place. So, Kim Burke, you'll be introducing us for the city, I assume. Have notice and posting been accomplished to your satisfaction?
Yes, and I'd like Mr. Sullivan, the architect, to attest to that,
All right,
because he's the one
we'll
that posted
get
the
to that in
property.
a second.
Okay.
And I take it, I haven't received any public comments. Does that mean there aren't
There has
any?
been no public comments.
Okay. So I just wanted to put on the record before we move ahead with this case that for a number of years I've been a member of the Severn River Association. I serve as a member of its advocacy committee and was recently elected to its board of directors. Shortly after notice of this application was published, I received a copy of an email from a member of the Severn River Association. The email was addressed to the advocacy committee generally and asking the advocacy committee, I think implicitly, to consider taking some position on this application. I immediately asked the executive director of the association and the advocacy committee to exclude me from any further consideration of the matter, and they have done that. I've heard nothing more from them. So it does not appear that the Severn River Association has taken a position in the case. Is that correct, Kim?
I haven't heard anything from them.
Okay. So under those circumstances, I believe that I can give the case fair and unbiased attention and propose to continue unless anyone has an objection. And if anyone does, now would be a good time to say so.
No objection.
No.
All right, thank you. So that gets us back to presentation. Would you like to start, Kim?
Sure. This is a variance to the disturbance to steep slopes and steep slope buffer for the construction of a new single-family dwelling, the removal of the existing one with the construction of a new one. And based on the topography, the existing topography of the site, it's unavoidable to disturb the steep slopes and their buffer because the bulk of this lot is steep slope. I should say that this is I've been working with the architect on this for several months. When this project originally came in, there was disturbance, the removal and relocation of the existing swimming pool, and we've been working with the architect to get as much disturbance as possible out of the buffer, to leave everything that's in the buffer as is, with the exception of a reconfigured sidewalk that goes to the existing pool. So pretty much everything in the buffer will remain undisturbed. And this project also has the buffer management plan, which adds additional plantings in the buffer that there are not today. And I know that the architect and the landscape architect are here and would probably like to discuss that further.
All right. Are both of you going to speak tonight?
Yes.
Okay. So let me ask you then, do you affirm, subject to penalties for perjury, that the evidence that you'll give this evening will be true to the best of your knowledge?
I will.
Good. That's always a good start. So please, is it Mr. Sullivan?
Correct.
Please go ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes?
Okay.
Is your green light on?
Yes. So I thought I'd start off with just the business of the affidavit of posting.
Would you like to identify yourself and your address?
Yes. I'm Tobias M. Sullivan. I'm a licensed architect for the state of Maryland, number 15760. And I've been working with the Larkins for the past, sadly, year now on this. And actually, before I begin, I was wondering if I could just have them introduce themselves briefly,
Sure.
if that's all right.
Good evening, everyone. John Larkin
Amanda Larkin.
and our daughter Abigail. Just real quickly, we moved here a couple years ago. Our daughter's at the Key School. We plan on staying for a long time. I was here at the academy back in the 80s.
Could I have you lean into the microphone
Yes.
and make sure it's on?
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, from online, yes.
Yeah, there we are.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, class of 89, and it's nice to actually be able to get out and see Annapolis this time around. So,
And we moved here for our daughter to the school, and also she's a ballerina. So we see this northern area have a lot of performing opportunities and a lot of shows that she'd like to participate and pursue that maybe in the future. So we're going to be happy to be here for a long time, I hope.
Wonderful. Glad you could come tonight. Thank you.
Okay, back to business of the affidavit of posting. I posted the sign on 18th of March and just drove by it today. It's still there, so if I could give that to Kim.
Please.
I should mention too, this is the same neighborhood I've lived in for the past 21 years. It's about maybe 500 feet from my house. And I know, numerous people on the notice of posting. So when we first started working with the Larkins, we were initially going to just try to renovate the house so that they could get in. But the more that we looked at it, the house itself was built as a split level, and then it's got this sort of back split level to it. So I believe there's 5 independent levels within the house, and 2 of them are not built to code. and have some major structural issues. So the more that we looked at both the house and then also the infrastructure on the site, we concluded that we thought the best thing to do was sort of do a hard reset on this lot. The house was one of your typical mid-century houses. I can tell you from our neighborhood, even the steep slopes that are present on the site are really solely, I believe, a result of that development back in the day. So this isn't like some natural shoreline that we're proposing to muck with. This is all just there. And the one sort of small portion of the site, if you look at the graphic that I put together with the kind of overlapping encumbrances on the property, there's only this one little kind of small island in the middle that technically you could build on, but it's this very weird shape. And it too is only there because of this retaining wall, this crumbling retaining wall that kind of goes across the site. So we felt this wasn't necessarily the project for timid moves, that we just needed to start over with the site, get both the house that they want and also at the same time address some of the issues on the site, because its placement at the end of Tyler Place, all the water runs down there, hits that driveway, and just kind of keeps going. So we'd like to modernize the site, for lack of a better term. Everything on this site has kind of reached the end of its life cycle and usability, so we felt the best way to do that would be a complete redo of the site. Heike, do you want to talk about the mitigation and the stormwater management for the
Any
site?
point you want. My name is Heike Nolker. I am a licensed landscape architect in the state of Maryland, and I have been practicing in Annapolis for over 20 years. I have been tasked to...
Is your mic on?
Oh, sorry.
Can you pass that over to the please? Thank you.
Not enough line here, that works. Okay, so I'll start over. My name is Heike Nolker. I'm a landscape architect in the state of Maryland. I am licensed. I've been practicing in the state for the last 20 years. And I've been tasked with providing mitigation for the proposed disturbance on site. This typically involves looking at the overall new impermeable surface lot coverage and figuring out how to plant native plant material all around, to filter stormwater runoff, and to provide additional habitat that actually didn't exist before. So you have a plan in your set of drawings, but I kind of highlighted all the areas that I have proposed to green up. Everything this way is related to the house. Everything forward, this portion and the one down by the bulkhead is not required, but we feel it will improve additional stormwater or rainwater filtration. And so that was the main point. This is mitigation in the buffer. This is additional mitigation outside the buffer. All these plantings that are proposed are native. And there are some stormwater management bins that, or retention areas that our engineer drew up that will serve to filter water from the house. So right now there's no stormwater management, and so we're definitely, if we're allowed to make the improvements to the lot, we'll be improving water quality for the creek and the Severn River by extension.
Anything else you'd like us to know?
Sorry. I put together a graphic, which I'm happy to introduce as an exhibit if you feel it's worthy. I just thought sometimes engineering drawings can be kind of tough to read.
Let's see. It's different from the ones we have?
Yeah.
Maybe you just want to hold it up and
Oh.
make your point.
So in this one, the blue shows the lot coverage that's present now. The pink is the lot coverage that we're proposing, and the purple is where they overlap. I call your attention to the 100-foot buffer line, which is this heavy dotted line running through it. And so whenever we could, we pulled away. There's a couple of decks and like a little pool cabana that we decided to take down as part of the renovations. And then the small little wedge was the one part that I just mentioned, is just connecting existing pool surround to the new design. So along with the small net reduction in impervious and lot coverage, we're also pulling every bit we can out of the buffer. So just to illustrate that, since engineering drawings can be tough to read sometimes.
Okay.
And I'm happy to introduce this as Exhibit A.
Sure. Why don't you give it to Kim, and she'll make sure a copy of it gets into the record. Anything else, folks?
Well, Tobias, we could talk about your reduction in impermeable. We're taking up a driveway that currently is a chute, as you said, directing stormwater down into the creek by moving the driveway to the other side and using permeable pavers. We're able to capture all that runoff and absorb it into the ground and filter it as much as possible.
Yeah, as she said, the driveway will be permeable and essentially part of our rain catchment system. And then further, as the property slopes back towards the water, we have some biofilter boxes that do the same thing, that allow that rainwater captured off of the roof to cool and be filtered before eventually being released to continue its way. We tried not to do, it was our preference that we do as much kind of what I'll call a natural versus structured mitigation. You can bury dry wells, but we felt that this was a little more in keeping, and even though the numbers may say the same thing, I feel like it's a better aesthetic and just better result.
So Kim, let's make sure we're all on the same page. What we're dealing with here is whether the applicant satisfies the criteria in the critical area variance rules at 2154-160.
Correct.
And we don't need to worry about 212850, the usual variance criteria.
Yes, the critical area rules, correct.
So there are no issues with setbacks or anything?
No.
Okay. Questions from the board?
Well, not strictly within our purview under this review. I would like to talk about the construction process. I applaud your end state. You do have something here stamped that is Dumb Homes, which I love the name of it. Oh, sorry. Are they already your contractor, or are they just the engineer of record?
Steve Layden is the engineer behind that. I have told him I loathe the name of his company, which started at, so Steve, just to give you some background, Steve built a straw bale house for himself. So he's a believer in green construction. He lives the life. So that's what he named his business and continues to practice under that. So
Is he the builder?
no, he's not the builder. He's the
Okay.
engineer.
All right. which is great. It's helpful because he has attested with his stamp here that he has reviewed the sediment construction plans, but I don't see them. So I'm just asking, have they been prepared already, or is he just saying aspirationally he will design them and they will be in accordance with all the applicable Maryland
I
state laws?
believe that was turned in.
Yeah, you should have gotten that as part of your package.
This
The whole
package?
grading permit package, I thought, was submitted.
Is it this page here, all this color
No,
guide?
there's 7 of 7.
I do have all 7 pages. I apologize if it was in the packet. Oh, there you go. So basically what he's done is provided all the standards, right? This is a standard section and detail that are cut and pasted right from the chapter and verse.
But he and I went back and forth extensively to get the stormwater right and
So,
work through it, and I'm pretty
I will
sure.
reiterate again for the record, we don't really control this purview, but we want to
Right.
strongly, you saw the rain we had this afternoon. I know from my professional experience that the state standards are not up to, they consider rain in the aggregate, but not the
Right.
deluge. So I would encourage you to plan ahead.
He has consulted with the city of Annapolis, person who does the stormwater management.
Mike Rossberg?
No, it wasn't like.
Jasmine?
Jasmine, yes. He has multiple times spoken with her. She reviews everything before we send it in.
Right. And it will come up later in your process.
Yes.
But not here. I just wanted to
Yeah.
give you a chance to get on the record that you understand the sensitivity of the
Oh,
construction
yes.
process as well. Thank you. That was all I have.
Mr. Sullivan, just to acquaint me, lot coverage of the new home compared to the existing?
I'm sorry,
The lot coverage?
the lot coverage is,
It's slightly less. according
it's
to-
slightly, I believe it's,
You wrote it down somewhere.
I did.
It's like 40,
Here we go.
I saw the table, yeah.
Existing lot coverage 8566, proposed lot coverage 7987.
Okay, that's great. And just a question of the driveway, permeable? So just to find, I mean, what materials are you using there?
It's a concrete block. You install it over top of number 57 clean gravel so the water can percolate through, and then you have underground pipes that are then directed around to one of those bins to be further filtered.
Okay, and, well, that's all I have.
Dr. Chen?
In the staff report, in one of the requirements, review requirements, it talks about special privilege, and it indicates that applicant states that granting the variance will not confer a privilege. Do you have evidence for that? That there are similar structures, et cetera? Thank you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm,
Did you direct that to me, or?
Anyone who cares to answer.
all right, I'll take my first swing at it, and then Ken can follow up or redirect. So the one that I mentioned in my response to the narrative is 699 Glendon, which is in the 200-foot catchment area of adjacent properties. And that was a new house on a unbuilt lot. And almost identical in size to what we're proposing, but on a lot that was almost half as big. So in terms of precedent, you know, we're a little handicapped with dealing with an existing site and some of those infrastructures already in place, but we feel like this is very much in keeping with both redevelopment in the area and, in this case, a whole new house, which I believe got, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. It meets all of the requirements. So, but at the end of the day, we're still looking at a similar sized house on a much larger lot as opposed to that one.
So the example you're giving us is a steep lot where,
Correct, yeah. If you're at the back of this property, say at the pool, you can see this house to the left. It's in the adjacent neighborhood of Parkwood, I think. Anyway, but it's just across the creek, yeah.
The way the city looks at this was that, to build anything on this lot, you would need a variance. And the fact that they are not encroaching further towards the buffer and it's relatively the same size house, they're reducing their impervious area, that we don't feel like this is a special privilege.
thank you, great. No further questions.
Mr. Hector?
No questions.
So what's the area of the current footprint?
Of the house?
Yeah.
The current house's footprint is 2261.
And that's just the first floor? That's-
Correct,
Yeah.
yeah.
And what's the total livable space currently?
I don't have that in
Does
front
it
of
have
me,
a
I'm
full
sorry.
second floor?
Yes, yeah, minus it's a carport, so, but most of it's a full
4,000
second
maybe.
floor, yeah.
And what's the footprint of the proposal?
The proposed footprint is 3196.
And the proposed total livable area?
We were at 4497.
And the expansions are, if I'm understanding this right, are lateral rather than toward the buffer?
Correct. I think that the exhibit that Mr. Sullivan provided tonight is a good example of
That's right.
how they're removing some of the.
Yeah, and
Go ahead.
So I was going to add that 699 Glendon Avenue project that I mentioned is what I thought was kind of the most direct.
We heard about that.
Yeah, the floor area ratio, which isn't something that the city necessarily, they don't use that as a standard, but I feel like it's a very useful model. So the Glendon property is like 150 feet smaller of above ground square footage. So they're at 4314 on a just under 11,000 square foot lot, where we're at 4,500, give or take, on an almost 20,000 square foot lot. So 40% versus 27% floor area ratio, just in terms of mass.
And the lateral expansion is not in the buffer, is that right?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. From these drawings, it's a little hard to read them in this size, but it seems like there will continue to be at least a couple of other auxiliary structures other than the pool, is that right?
Couple of other what structures?
Auxiliary structures?
There's an existing shed, which we're keeping, minus a little lean-to, which we're taking off. That's the only,
Where's that?
it's,
Is that the one that's down on the bulkhead?
it's close to the bulkhead, yeah. It's actually built over the sewer easement. Don't know how that happened, but it's been there a long time. I think it's original to the house based on the way it's constructed.
It's a rectangle along the side of the property. It's a block building that's serving as boat shed and garden shed right now.
And the hot tub is going to stay? No.
That's going on existing impermeable surface. The building, the outbuilding is down here. This
Yeah.
is the pool, the other thing is right
But there's a
here.
hot tub up by the pool.
That would be new. But that's just, it is one of those that, it's a temporary structure that you just bring in on a
The plug-in.
flatbed, plug and go.
Yeah.
It would have to go in before the house gets built or be shimmied down sideways, because we're not going to have much room on either side.
Bring it in by boat, of course.
Maybe we can borrow the crane from the Key Bridge if they're done with it.
Just talk to Mr. Hector. Slate, existing slate and planting beds on the right side as you face the water.
Yes, those are outside the buffer, and we decided to minimize, in order to minimize disturbance, to not touch these at this point in time. Eventually, they'll probably go away, but because they're outside the buffer, and like I said, we're trying to minimize disturbance, we've just eliminated anything that doesn't directly pertain to the house and getting around the house. There are two decks. There's two decks that are being removed on the water side. There is a little, it's almost like a little bar where it says hot tub that we're removing that has a roof on it. And then there's a pavilion with a roof next to the pool that we're also taking out. So we're returning quite a bit on that side in the 100-foot buffer to a natural area.
And then the paved area that connects the screen porch to the pool area, is that impervious?
There's both a planted area and then also just a small walkway, for lack of a better term, that goes between the existing pool and the new house.
Is that a candidate for pervious paving?
In order to make it all look the same, maybe. There are definitely additional plantings to filter anything that comes across there, but we also, along that line of the new impervious and the existing pool deck, the engineer and I have discussed a trench drain that then drains the water into these bioplanters.
But, yeah, good. That's great. I mean, I'm impressed with the efforts that have been made to
We've worked on it
deal
hard.
with this. And no effort is too much, as you'll learn as you live on the creek and
Yes,
see what happens in the summer.
yes.
All right, any more questions from the board? Anything else, Kim or Mr. Sullivan? All right, well,
None for me.
we're good. So we will close the hearing in this case. The application with exhibits, the staff report with exhibits, and the exhibit that Mr. Sullivan presented this evening will be made part of the record. And the board will take up deliberations now. You are excused, you're free to go, but I'll suspect that you'll hang around and see what happens. So you're welcome to do that too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to the Larkins for your interest and your diligence in trying to minimize the impacts in a critical area. So are we ready to deliberate? Is there anything we need to discuss? You want to go first, Christian?
Sure. I think this board, and at least in my tenure, has heard a lot of similar variance requests. Not steep slope necessarily, but because of the unique nature of Annapolis, and we've had applicants come in time and time again to replace something that's existing, but for the lot shape and lot size, they need a variance. This is an extreme example of that, but whether it's a porch or a side door overhang, it's not that different. It's just, it's the logical conclusion of the most extreme version of this. And I do recognize that the applicant and their consultants have come in fully prepared for the nature of this board's skepticism with regard to steep slopes. They've done their homework. They've committed to the necessary resources, both through their consultancy and their dollars, with the effort they're putting in. I find no reason that this variance should not be approved by this board. That would be my opinion.
Mr. Walsh?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I concur with my colleague. Also, Kim Burke's comment about, to the query about the unwarranted hardship. I come away after hearing the testimony and seeing the evidence that there really is. It would probably improve what's already there and what's being proposed. So I think it meets that requirement and the other requirements and review criteria that we have for variances as well in this unique circumstance.
Dr. Chen?
I agree with my colleagues that a huge effort has been made, and we're very grateful. And yeah, I agree this should be approved.
Mr. Hector?
I also agree with my colleagues, and I really appreciate the family coming in. You're rebuilding, but you're making improvements to it. So I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm on board. We take these steep slope critical area variance applications very seriously because of it's of all the things that we look at in applications that come before us, that has the most impact on the creek. And it's obvious that you've taken it very seriously too. If you were planning to expand the structure in the buffer, you probably wouldn't get this far. The staff would stop you. And we understand that in order to preserve what you've already got, it's going to require some disturbance, and it looks like you're doing the best job you can to manage it. So is there a motion?
Motion to approve variance 202401 based on the evidence provided in the application, staff report, testimony, and evidence submitted into the record, and deliberation here to within.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Congratulations, Larkins. Thank you all for your diligence.
And we're so happy we can help the culture community develop the ballet program around here, Abigail.
Is that greater enough for ballet? Wonderful. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, do we have any other business tonight that anyone knows of?
Move to adjourn.
Well, that was fast.
Second.
Should be you to the punch, Christian.
Taking the baton. All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Do we have an actual second? I don't know if I heard it.
Yeah, there was a second.
Okay,
Heck was all
Mr.
over it.
Walsh snuck one in.
He wasn't sleeping over there.
These two have been confirmed.
Really, it's a 1.5 motion.